Tennessee This Week from WATE's 6 on Your Side starts now.
Hello and welcome to Tennessee This Week. I'm Bo Williams. This week we are joined by Knoxville Mayor Indya Kincannon. And Mayor, thanks so very much for joining us. We've got a lot to talk about, so it's great to have you here on what is a beautiful day. We should say we're recording this on Friday. It's absolutely a great day to be out and about walking around Knoxville, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Glad to be here, Bo.
All right, let's talk about first things here. Gay Street Bridge, a topic a lot of people have been talking about lately. Kind of get us up to date, refresh us now on where things stand with the bridge now moving forward.
Yes, well, it's an iconic bridge. It's a super important connection to our city. So thankfully, we have a plan moving forward. City Council approved $2 million to repair the bridge, the historic bridge that's there right now, to the maximum capacity it can hold, which is pedestrians, bikers, and if the evaluations from the engineers come back, we'll also be able to put one at a time emergency vehicles and a bus on there, but we're still waiting to see that. So $2 million repairs that we hope to get done by the end of this calendar year or early 26. And then at the same time, what is the long-term replacement plan? So we're starting the evaluations now for what that replacement bridge should look like. Should it be at the same place? And what should the capacity be? We need to do some traffic studies and analysis, but first things first, fix the current bridge to the extent we can, and that'll buy us a little time as we plan for a long-term replacement.
Yeah, definitely. So it definitely sounds like there will be a long-term replacement here at some point for that bridge as far as vehicle traffic is concerned. Yeah. A lot of people have asked us to, as far as with the Gay Street Bridge becoming, I guess, a pedestrian, bicyclist type bridge, does it have any impact on the bridge, the pedestrian bridge that has been set for over near the University of Tennessee?
No, those are two totally separate projects, and a lot of people have asked us the same thing, like, oh, you just got a lot of this federal funds and the state funding. Why don't you just use that to fix the Gay Street Bridge? The grants are very specific, and they're for the places and the things where we've already evaluated it. And the pedestrian bridge, where we're partnering with the University of Tennessee, has been a vision that the South Knoxville community has had for almost 20 years now. So it's very specific to help revitalize that part of South Knoxville, the Vestal Scottish Pike area, and be a key connector to jobs and opportunity to people who want to get over to the University of Tennessee. So that project's moving forward. The Gay Street Bridge repairs are moving forward. We're going from 0 pedestrian bridges to 2, and we do obviously want to continue to examine and evaluate a full replacement for the Gay Street Bridge for all modes of traffic.
Speaking of moving forward, when you drive down Neeland and you look to the south side, the apartments that are going in, and knowing now this pedestrian bridge, it looks like there is a lot of development happening just across the river, and it looks like there could be plans, I would think, for even more moving forward, especially once that bridge is in place. Yeah,
it's finally the realization of the South Waterfront Vision Plan that was put together under Mayor Haslam and the community back in 2005, 2006. That happened, and then immediately afterwards we had the 2008 economic crisis. So that was a bit of a breaking of that development. But slowly, it sort of happened slowly and then all at once, like so many things. So Sevier Avenue, we're doing a major streetscape overhaul. We developed a Suttree Landing Park, which has inspired more housing built along there. Baptist Hospital went out of business, so we struck a deal to make that into the Regal Entertainment headquarters, but also great apartments. And as more people come into that area, there's more ability to sustain businesses, coffee shops, dry cleaners, restaurants, barber shops, whatnot. That's still a work in progress, the commercial activity, but the commercial activity follows the people, so having more residential development there is really exciting. Kern's Bakery's happening. We've got the Rails to Trails project that's moving forward, all complementing our investments in free, open, urban wilderness and park amenities. There's a lot of things to celebrate.
Well, a lot going on south of the river, also a lot going on near the old city, and that's the other big topic everyone is talking about right now, the big countdown on to the first game coming up on April 15th for the Smokies. But talk about something, too, that maybe kind of started out slow. We kept hearing about it and thinking, oh, this might be happening, and then all of a sudden now there's a ballpark.
I know. It's so exciting.
An exciting time for that area as well.
Yeah, I remember very well when I first took office, actually when I was campaigning for office, people were like, are you for the stadium or not? And I always said if I thought the benefits to the community were going to be greater than the cost of the community, I would be supportive. And our expectations have already been exceeded. I think there's already been a huge catalyst. Just when people see that the community is supporting this project, they're already investing in properties and businesses and all kinds of things, fixing up their homes. It's really exciting to see, especially because that part of town and to the east has been a part of the community that has not had as much investment in the last 50 years. So we're excited to see that. And there's a lot of work by so many different partners, the county, Boyd Sports, and the state to make that come together. So I can't wait. It's less than a month away that Covenant Health Park will be throwing the first pitch. I can't wait to welcome the community into that beautiful new public space.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough ticket to get, that's for sure. A lot of people obviously leading up to that were asking, what about parking? Where do I put my car? Boyd Sports, I know, was talking with the city and the county. It looks like there is now a game plan. We've been talking about that, but again, at least now there's something in place to kind of put everyone's mind at ease a little bit as far as where you're going to park and how you're going to get to the stadium.
Yes, it's a source of anxiety for a lot of people, and I understand that because when you're doing something for the first time, it's new and novel, and no one is quite sure how it's going to play out. So I want to thank everybody for their patience because it's new for the city and for everybody as well. But we have a great plan with Boyd Sports. People can park downtown at numerous garages. They can reserve parking in advance and take a free shuttle to the stadium. There's also over 7,000 spots in the nearby vicinity on the streets and nearby where people can park and walk, just like city dwellers park on streets all the time. But it'll take a little while for people to get used to those new habits. And so I just want to ask for people to be patient and maybe give themselves a little extra time. Come ahead early for the game, have dinner and downtown, patronize some local businesses, and then head over to the park. That's our whole vision for Covenant Health Park, is that people will come to an activity, a ball game, a soccer game, a concert, but then also enjoy the rest of the amenities in the nearby area.
And that kind of leads to the next question with so many people coming downtown to the ballpark and what will be happening there at Covenant Health. I'm sure the city's been working with KPD, the Central District there, to try to come up with a plan. A lot of people saying, because a lot of these will be night events, and you'll be walking, whether it's across town to get back to your car or what have you. So what's the plan there as far as KPD and how you've been working with them? Yes,
well, KPD is very much on this. We're going to make sure that we have enough officers patrolling in these areas. We're also going to have our downtown Knoxville ambassadors. They wear the green shirts. They're going to be working in this area, and they're just there to help people find their way. And then, help people who maybe are experiencing a crisis of some kind get the supports they need. So we're going to be staffing according to the needs. I also am confident. I spend time downtown and in the Old City right now, and there's more safety when there's more people. And so the increased attention and activity makes things safer. We're going to also just make sure that we pay close attention to all these things. It's new for all of us, and so we're going to be especially attentive to all the changes in traffic flows and safety patterns and so forth, particularly in this first season. Yeah,
be kind of a learning situation.
Exactly.
For many. You talked about more people. Let's talk about just, we have more people coming to the area. Obviously, we know we've been talking about it for a while, the cost of living, different products going up. I know you've really been focused on affordable housing.
Absolutely.
That has been a big sticking point for a lot of people. So where do things stand right now? What's the city doing to try to help and ease some of these concerns?
Yes, well, we are fortunate to be a city that people want to move to, and people who are already here want to stay here, but they need a place to live. Over 53% of Knoxville residents are renters, and so rents have gone up really fast. So what are we doing to address that? We are using all kinds of efforts to develop more housing. We need more housing at all price points, but particularly affordable housing. And just since I've become mayor, we've dedicated millions of dollars towards what we call gap financing, where we help private developers build housing. We do the gap financing. We give $1 for every $1 city taxpayers put in, the private sector puts in 15. And since I've been mayor, we've helped develop over 2,600 affordable homes for people in Knoxville. We need more, but we're in a very positive trajectory. And I'm especially proud of a recent thing we contributed to called Liberty Place, where it's 30 units of affordable housing for veterans who used to be homeless. I'm also really proud of a project we're participating in to transform the abandoned Giffen School in South Knoxville to 77 units of affordable housing. So we have lots of projects, and together they add up to addressing our housing crisis.
All right. Mayor, I know we're almost out of time, but I do want to ask you here in this final term, what are you really looking to accomplish? When you sit back and think, okay, I've got 2-3 years here to go, what is it you're really focusing on? What do you want to see happen now as you, and it's still, it's a lot of time,
Yeah.
but still, what's your main focus right now?
Well, I mean, my main focus is to be brilliant at the basics and to make sure that Knoxville remains a place that has a high quality of life for everyone who wants to live here. There's a lot of projects, a lot of irons in the fire right now. You know, the ongoing efforts to fix bridges and pave streets, but I want to have Knoxville be an affordable place with a high quality of life, and that's the work that we do every day on projects that are routine and projects that are really special, and that's what we're doing, and that's what I want to keep doing.
All right. Mayor, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
I know we'll see you out at the Covenant Health Park for the baseball, hopefully for some soccer games as well, and whatever else comes to the ballpark.
It's going to be a fun time.
It will be. Mayor, thanks so much for coming by.
Thank you.
All right, our panel of pundits will weigh in on some of the topics we were just talking about, so stay with us. We're back in 90 seconds. Welcome back to Tennessee This Week. A moment ago, we heard from Knoxville Mayor Indya Kincannon on a number of topics ranging from the Gay Street Bridge to affordable housing and parking. So let's talk with our panel of pundits right now. Let them weigh in on what the mayor had to say. Joining us as always, Courtney Piper, Craig Griffith, and Michael Covington. Great to have all of you here.
Glad to be
Courtney, great to have you back.
Thank you.
Missed you last week.
I can speak. Last week I lost my voice, so it's good to be here.
I'm glad you found it.
Thank you.
Yeah, there we go.
Are you glad too, Michael?
I am very glad.
Michael was being very quiet on the other end.
And all those people. Where's Courtney? Where's Courtney?
Well, Courtney, we'll start with you then, since you weren't with us last week. Just kind of your thoughts, any takeaways after listening to what the mayor had to say. I know we touched on a number of topics.
I've been really impressed with the mayor at how she has been able to identify and prioritize her agenda. For a lot of people in executive positions in government, it's real easy to fall into a trap of, well, I'll just do everything for everyone, and then all of a sudden you're doing absolutely nothing. And the way that she has been able to prioritize and identify her priorities and move towards them, I think affordable housing is one really great example. Public safety is another example. The way that she has been able to do that is very skillful, and now we're seeing some of the fruits of her first term and into her second term. I'm really excited for the stadium to come to fruition and have that first game, which we are just weeks away from at this point.
April 15th.
So, you know, it's just really great to see the city continue to grow and thrive with subsequent mayors. And the way that Mayor Kincannon has been able to prioritize her agenda has just been beneficial for all of us.
Michael, let me ask you about that as well. Just kind of get your thoughts on what the mayor had to say.
Well, first I'd like to say I can remember when I still didn't have a tremendous amount of confidence that the mayor, or at that point candidate, Indya Kincannon, would be able to do the job against Eddie Manis and Marshall Stair. She has proven me wrong. She is a prototypical municipal mayor. I can't see glaring things that are problematic as it relates to her agenda. So I support what she's doing. I think the Gay Street Bridge, again, it's not an issue for me. The stadium, superlative. All the housing going up, I'm a little concerned about how fast it's going up, but it's going up and it's needed. So right now I think the mayor's on point.
This coming from a man who every time he comes in here tells us how he's counting down for his tickets there at the ballpark, aren't you, at Covenant Health. All right. Craig, how about you? What was your takeaway?
Well, it's interesting to me, the amount of things that she has accomplished during her administration, when you have to recognize that she lost basically 2 years in the beginning of her first term as mayor to the COVID pandemic. So really after that issue was resolved and she hit the ground running on affordable housing, on the baseball stadium, on the South Knoxville urban wilderness. So I think there's a number of things that she has accomplished in a shortened period of time, which anyone in the city should be proud of. So moving forward, it's going to be interesting how she closes her term as mayor. In about a month or 3 weeks, we'll have her next State of the City address, where she'll outline her priorities for the upcoming year. And I think that they will probably rotate around public safety and neighborhood integrity, which is things that she's accomplished quite a bit while at her term of office. So we'll see. Things are changing. There might be quite a bit less federal support for things that any community in America wants to do. So we'll have to see how those budget numbers work out in the future.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on where I was going next. So, Courtney, let me ask you, moving forward, we will hear from the mayor again here soon, but what would you like to hear? What would you like to see now moving forward for the rest of her term?
Continued focus on those priorities. The mayor has also been a really big champion of innovation and something that's called technology-based economic development. The city has invested in entrepreneurial programming at the UT Research Park, and those companies are keeping their startups and growing their businesses and hiring people in Knoxville. So a continued focus on innovation. We're in a really great competitive place, being home to TVA, Oak Ridge National Lab 30 miles away, and the University of Tennessee. The more and more we can grab and attract those technology-based companies, specifically with a focus on energy, and we have a unique competitive advantage there, the more our city will continue to grow and thrive. Focus on the urban wilderness and just making the city a great place for people to want to play in addition to live. And just keeping on with her basic priorities with public safety and infrastructure and why am I blanking? Public safety, infrastructure.
Neighborhood integrity.
Neighborhoods, housing. That's where I was going.
Affordable housing,
yes,
right,
yes,
right. And also we
yes.
have the Vision Zero too, which we haven't even touched on, but
Yes.
that's another big project as well. Michael, let me ask you then. I know you said that looking at what's been accomplished so far, you've been pleased. Looking forward, what needs to be built upon, or what would you like to see still happen?
This is not a criticism. It is a heartfelt concern. Every time I ride to the studio, to the station, I see that encampment under that Broadway bridge area. So if there could be some creative solutions to try to mitigate that degree of homelessness, it offends me to a degree to ride by week after week after week and never really feel as though there's a progress being made in terms of getting those folks into some type of housing. So I'm hoping that over time, I stop seeing those people needing housing under that bridge.
Anybody else? I mean, as far as that,
No,
you wanna comment? I
certainly
saw
agree
you-
with that,
I was
but you know,
reading your face on that.
homelessness is, it's not the problem of homelessness, it's the problem of housing. And getting housing for those people that Michael was talking about is the hardest part of that equation. And getting into housing and getting them into the case management and other support services that they need. So I think the mayor is working as hard as she can on that. And again, you know, that's an area that's fairly expensive to address, and there will be declining federal resources to address that, I'm sure, in at least the next 2 years.
Yeah, and I think the mayor did allude to it. It does take time to build, that is for sure. At the same token, sometimes these people, they don't want that. You also have to convince them that this is what...
I'm not sure. You know, there was a conservative podcaster on UT campus last week and said that homelessness can be a choice for someone, and I think that's totally an error. It's not having worked at the volunteer ministry, one of the homeless agencies, you know, I don't know anyone that said I signed up for this lifestyle. It's, you know, I had a family problem, I had a factory that closed, so I lost work, I had an overwhelming medical problem that caused me to have to go bankrupt. It's not a choice people make, but it's a choice our community makes in addressing those issues and giving hope and opportunity to those people that their life can be rebuilt and they can become another productive member of our community.
You agree with that, Courtney? You kind of go along with what Craig's saying, or as far as the homeless situation in Knoxville?
Craig volunteers at the Volunteer Ministry Center, so I'm going to go along with what he has to say on this.
All right.
I thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll mark this moment in time.
Yes, we will.
All right, stay with us, everyone. We'll have more on Tennessee this week. The University of Tennessee was sent a letter by the U.S. Department of Education amid renewed discussion over pro-Palestinian demonstrations. We'll talk about that and more when we come back. All right, welcome back to Tennessee This Week. On Monday, we learned the U.S. Department of Education has sent letters to 60 universities which are under investigation for anti-Semitic discrimination and harassment. University of Tennessee was on that list. Of course, this comes nearly a year after on-campus pro-Palestinian rallies were held at the university. However, despite what Education Secretary Linda McMahon wrote in a statement about on-campus demonstrations, the university telling 6 News the Department of Education's investigation is actually related to separate concerns raised by an individual student. So let's talk a little bit more about this and what has been coming down the pike here. And we saw the long list of the different universities. So, Craig, what were your thoughts when you saw this? And I know there were 5 universities that were really being targeted or by the department as far as demonstration. We've seen recent stuff at Columbia here. I know that was one. But
and apparently they're asking for changes in admission policies and disciplinary policies at Columbia. To me, I find it highly ironic. This administration wants to do away with the Department of Education. And they say what they want to do is put all that responsibility on the individual states. But when there's an issue that may gain them some political favor, such as trying to fight anti-Semitism or any LGBTQ issues, they're more than willing to hop into the states and say this is the way you should do it. So I think it's highly ironic that they're doing that, and maybe we should just wait until the Department of Education doesn't exist anymore before responding to their letter.
Courtney, what were your thoughts when you saw this and saw the university on the list?
Well, like Craig, these federal agencies seem to exist when they favor the current administration and when they can use them as a tool to push forward their agenda or just interject more chaos into an already crazy news cycle and policy agenda. So with this particular case, the University of Tennessee did not welcome these protests with open arms, help them coordinate their protests, help them recruit people to come in. They did what they have a legal responsibility with First Amendment rights to do is, allow the protest within reason. And that is part of guaranteeing our First Amendment rights to free speech. Did I personally agree with the protest? No, but it doesn't mean it shouldn't exist and they should not exist, because as a country, we all agree that we have a right to free speech.
And that's what I was going to touch on. I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, there's where the question lies then. Is there some type of violation here as far as free speech? So, Michael, when you saw all of this, what popped out at you?
I thought it was much ado about nothing. Mm-hmm. The letter that came, nothing. What happened to that Jewish student on the campus of UT? Again, I think it amounted to absolutely nothing. I didn't see anything on the front page about a Jewish student being harmed, drug around campus, beaten, kept from going to class. This just seems like an intellectual pursuit to see what you can accomplish based on there being problems around the country. I think UT has nothing to be concerned about.
Yeah, because Craig, I know the university said that there was the one. It was someone observed something or heard something, and it sent a letter, and that's really why they're on the list, I guess.
Well, I think we should leave it up to the University of Tennessee to investigate and come up to the conclusions and change policies if necessary, but not the Department of Education. Mm-hmm. I think that I have confidence that the UT staff can investigate this, and every student has a right to be safe on campus. Be you Jewish or be you Palestinian or be you Baptist. So I certainly agree with that there needs to be a welcoming atmosphere on campus, and everyone's individual rights need to be protected, but there's a police department over there on campus. There's a police department of the city. And again, I think that UT can take necessary steps to where every student should feel welcome.
Yeah. And with such a large university as well, but Courtney, obviously you're a Vol. Your thoughts though when you see something like this,
well, I have an orange
and
tie
you've got
too.
your orange tie on there. But what kind of goes through your minds? And yes, it should be welcoming for everybody, I would think. So is that becoming a tougher task these days amid the climate?
Sure, but the University of Tennessee has shown time and time again that they can rise to the occasion. There is no need for federal interference in this case. We have an incredible president with the system, with Randy Boyd, an incredible chancellor with Don D. Plowman. They have shown time and time again that they are more than capable and qualified of navigating some of these tricky situations and keeping students safe. Mm.
And Michael, anything else you want to add as far as this topic is concerned? I know you said really it's a non-issue, is what you just said.
Again, until someone has actually been harmed, mm-hmm. I don't think that UT really needs to be overly concerned about this. I have not heard of any students across all of the culture at UT. I haven't heard of students really suffering from any oppression or anything overly negative. There was one person that filed a complaint about some wording of something in a class. But again, an institution that is as large as UT, it's its own town, it's its own city, mm-hmm. It has its own governance. UT has no problem with anti-Semitism.
Yeah. And Craig, I know, like you just mentioned too, obviously it has its own police department. I mean, everything, the pieces are there. Everything is in place. And it's a great observation. It is its own little mini city, so to speak.
We are in a hyper-partisan era of politics and governance and things like that. There's no question about that. And it seems that the most vitriol is the one that gets quoted the most. That becomes the tweet or the Facebook post that gets spread a million times. So I can understand that there is some concern about that, but some of those things are outside of UT's control.
All right, and on that note, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you back here next week.
The views of guests on Tennessee This Week are their own and do not represent the views of WATE 6 on your side or Next Star Broadcasting.